if you are tired of losing money in crypto, you are not the first one. Majority of people are losing big time, and that's because most cryptos don't have any kind of utility. So if you look here, 30 million tokens, and of those 30 million crypto tokens that exist, you have, in my opinion, 5, max 10 really good projects. I think this is actually the moment where most cryptos never reach all-time highs again, and many of these cryptos you might hold it, so it will be a very important video. So let's go into it. So let's start with Bitcoin. As you can see, when I look in terms of technical analysis, we are definitely in the bear market. So we closed below this key level of 74k, and below this for me it was always the most important level. If you look in terms of technicals, it looks like we are close to the bottom. According to some of my analysis, I think there is a 70% chance that the bottom for Bitcoin is between where we are now and 50k. I think 50k would be my worst case scenario. This is the previous range from last cycle. So this could be the level. Usually bottoms are not that quick. We might be around this level 2 to 4 months. Where things change for me is if Bitcoin starts to close above this range here. So around 95k, 100k would be really, really important to close above this previous range that led this big move. Until then, we could have a bounce, but the bounce doesn't mean a reversal. So we could do something like this, come here, come down, and just range for a while. In terms of the future, I'm still really bullish on Bitcoin. Yes, gold has been outperforming Bitcoin in the last 2-3 years, but when you look at the overall history, Bitcoin has been far better than gold. And I think in the next few months, years, we're gonna have Bitcoin again outperforming gold. I think is a better form of money or store of capital, you could say. Just you can prove it right away if, based on the hash, if it's true or not. You can verify it. You can send across space between Tokyo, New York, wherever, and costs almost nothing, and you can send a bill. And if you want to do that with gold, it's far more difficult. Of course, gold has 5,000 years of existence, Bitcoin has 12, but the technology is better, and I think eventually Bitcoin at least gets to half the market cap of gold. Gold is around 30 trillion, Bitcoin is around 1.5. I still think there is at least half the market cap of gold, 10 to 15x. If it goes to the market cap of gold, that's a 30x from here, more or less, give or take. So Bitcoin, I think this is starting to be a good time to dollar cost average. Of course, not all at once. I'll say 5-10%. There is a good chance that the bottom, I think, is between where we are now and 50s. I think the chance of going to 40s is lower. Could happen. I'll give it a 10-15% chance. Maybe if something, an exchange collapses, or I don't know, a Coinbase, Binance has some problems. Yes, we could wick towards this area here around 42. It's also a good demand zone, but I think that the low for Bitcoin either is in around 59, maybe we still have another move down, or is around 50k. Either way, for the long term, I think this is going to be a really good entry. I know everyone now is saying that Bitcoin is dead, and all this happens every single cycle. So now let's talk about the tokens. Many of these tokens, people still hold it. And I want to speak about this because most people are going to lose a lot of money. They are already lots of meme coins, most altcoins are not performing well, not most, like 99.9. And in this video, I'm going to tell you the ones that will survive. So let's start with actually an interesting one. So this is AVAX. I think it's actually an interesting project, but when you look at the chart, it's looking off. So the all-time high for AVAX was around 143. Is currently 93% down. The problem is Bitcoin went from 15k to 126k. If the token you are holding didn't at least outperform Bitcoin in some moments, or It's still holding well. There is a good chance that never reaches all-time high. Yeah, we could still see AVAX around 20 or 30, but if you think this is going to make all-time highs, there is a very, very low chance. Could happen, but the chances are pretty low. So this is an example of maybe a project that it was the last cycle, and I think actually AVAX is a cool one. I held it in the past, but it's one of many examples where there is not much hope. So when you look at this chart, this could definitely go lower. There is also a good chance that we have at least a bounce from here, but if not, we could go to $2 for AVAX. Anyways, almost 94% correction. I don't see how AVAX, and I actually like it, return to all-time highs. So another good example is Injective. Look at this chart, absolutely awful. I probably also go to $1. There is no traction. Most layer ones don't have much utility, are not being used other than Ethereum, Solana, Sui. I also think is really good. You don't have many altcoins actually doing that well. They are absolutely awful. And Injective is another one, massive investors behind. Aptos, even worse. Like this had 500 million or more invested into Aptos, and as you can see, like the chart looks awful. So the all-time high for Aptos, it was 20, now is around 91 cents. So things are not looking good for Aptos. Atom, another example, a coin that's been here for a while, all-time high around 45, now around 2. Polkadot, another good example of something that almost 95% chance that it goes to zero, almost a 100% correction. I don't see how something like Polkadot ever reaches even $11. That would be a 10x, that would be an insane return. But all-time highs, I think, is almost guaranteed. Near is another one that actually I like. I find it interesting, but when I look at the chart, and the chart tells far more than people think, 94% correction. And this has been here for a while. If it was the first cycle, like some hyper liquid Tau, I could give the benefit of a doubt. But in this case, it's not looking good. We probably also reach for near. If Bitcoin goes to 55, 60K again, we probably reach 60 cents. And near, I think, is actually a good project. But these are some of the examples of coins that might never reach all-time highs, almost guaranteed. Say another good one, also almost at 6 cents. Celestia. This is another good example, from $20 to 33 cents. So if this return to all-time highs, would be a 60x. Another example of a coin that probably goes to zero. Cardano, I also don't see much future for this. All the funding, and the chart also looks awful. If we lose 25 cents, it probably goes to 10. Another coin I think is super overvalued. ICP, another scam. Had a wick towards 3,000 and now is at $2. Another big scam. Shiba Inu, Sonic. I actually thought this would actually work well. Thank God I sold really well this one to Tau in this case, and Solana and stuff like that. But also it's another project probably goes to zero. Render, another good example. I actually liked the Render in the last cycle. I bought this really low. I bought actually at around $1, sold around 5-6, and also sold this into Tau. And this also looks awful. It went from $13 to $1. I don't see any traction with this project. That's the problem. I don't see the community. I don't see nothing being built. So maybe these are the projects that never return. I think Aave, it's a good one. I think this one survives. Caspa, I also like Caspa in the past, but lots of problems too. This probably also hits around 0.0015, so many zeros. So most tokens, to be honest, are worthless. They'll never return to all-time highs. So you have not many chances, I'll say. For me, the only ones that will survive could be maybe 5-10 more. Of course, Bitcoin is going to be here. I always recommend. Ethereum, it's another one I'm a bit disappointed because Vitalik, after 10 years, speaking about layer 2s now, last 2 weeks he said that layer 2s are dead, which is not a good look for Ethereum, especially because Solana and Sui can scale by their own technology. They don't need anyone, so it scales, it's fast, it's cheap, and Ethereum is slow and expensive. Of course, has massive TVL, total value locked. Institutions still trust it, but I think sooner or later either they scale or we might have things like Solana and Sui outperforming it and being better. Ethereum around this level might be a good bounce. I still think we could go to 1,600 if Bitcoin really goes to 50k. We would see Ethereum at bear market lows. The fact that Bitcoin went almost 26k and Ethereum already went to 5k, it's almost at all-time lows. So it's not looking good for Ethereum, but it will survive. It's one of those that I still think are going to do well. I prefer Solana. I think it's a better risk reward. Yes, we could see Solana around $50. This is the area where I'm going to accumulate heavily. Below this, yeah, we could go to all-time lows again, around 20s. That I think would mean that Bitcoin went to 40k or something. But overall, still Solana has a lot of developers. Things are being built there. I like the culture. I think it's the best layer one in the space. So I think Solana also survives and is a really good one. Tau is still performing well. I'll say compared to most market, to the overall market, still 70% down, but still holding compared to other ones. I think this is the future of AI, decentralized AI. I think it will be one of the most important projects, especially as we advance with AI developments. It's becoming more and more centralized. So I think something like Tau, decentralized AI infrastructure, is very, very important. So I think Tau is going to survive 128 subnets, probably is going to have hundreds and thousands of them. I think eventually we're going to have a flagship subnet that is going to be $1 billion. There are a few candidates in the Tau ecosystem. Let's see which one reaches that there first, but still think it's an amazing project. Tokenomics like Bitcoin, instead of wasting the computational power to secure the network, they use the computational power to create intelligence, solve real world problems. So Tau, still in my opinion, a good one. Yes, could go to 100 if Bitcoin falls to 40k. If it goes to the range lows 150, that would be insane. I'll buy big time. Even now I'm accumulating, not financial advice of course, but if it goes to 100 to 50, I think is another project that I see rising for the next cycle. AI is the biggest technology. Tau doesn't have any competition. So I think if there is a narrative that I think will perform well, is AI, and I think Tau is the only one that will survive. Also, Tau against Bitcoin is starting to perform better. Even against Ethereum, we are starting to see some signals. It's at the low, so I think it's in a good level. Another one I think is interesting, even if there is some problems usually with privacy in the sense that some exchanges don't list it or did list it actually. I think Zcash is an important one. Privacy is a big narrative, especially for people that have a lot of money, don't want to show their address. Something like Zcash is pretty good, and I think is going to perform also very well. It's, I think, the best privacy token. Really strong narrative too. So I think this is another one that will do well in the next cycle. And my second favorite one, I'll say Hyperliquid. I think this is really good, makes more than 100 million a month, hosts crypto, metals, stocks. Now it's going to have the integration with Polymarkets, going to be able to bet using Hyperliquid. So I think it's like they say the house of finance. I think it's an insane project. I wish we come back again to the $20 to have even a better dollar cost average. I think this one also is going to be here. Really good team, decentralized, fairly launched like Bitcoin and Tau, and he's making money. It's actually a profitable business. While 99% of cryptos are shit, are not making any money, they are actually extractors. Hyperliquid is actually one of the few that's actually making money to the investors, and they're actually making a lot of money. Also, they have the fund that's buying 97% of it, using the fees to buy back the token. So pretty good one. Sui also I think is going to survive. Almost sure that will survive. We could see lower than this, around where we are in 50 to 30 cents. A really good one. I think after Solana is the one I like the most. Chainlink also survives, of course. The token after so many years still not doing that well, but let's see. Still I think an important part of crypto, and that's it. I think all the other ones, to be honest, I don't see much future on this. Pump fun for meme coins might still hold. Meme coins are dead, but the infrastructure that creates memes might still survive as well. But to be honest, for me, it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Tau, Hyperliquid, Zcash. You could also add Sui here, Chainlink, but that would be 7 to 10 tokens. So those are the tokens I think will survive. If you have anything else, chances are you're probably going to lose. If you want to know more, make sure you message me on Instagram or join my VIP groups. Thank you very much.